Hi, my name's Lindy at Raising Reality and welcome to my channel. I hope you are all doing well wherever you are in the world. So this is going to be an energy update, today being the 15th of June 2021, and this is quite an improv, unplanned video, like many of them are, most of them are. Quite a significant day today because it's one of my youngest children's birthdays, who was born at 1101 on this very day, a number of years ago. So I'm going to leap in. This is going to be an energy update, again from that experiential perspective, and I'm going to start with this energy update in regards to the two-way split that is happening in people's awareness and consciousness. I'm just smiling there because you'll see me, I immediately glanced off camera, and that's because honeybees keep being attracted to coming into my property. We haven't got a bee's nest here or a hive or anything like that, a beehive, or they're not nesting here, but they're very attracted to coming into this property or coming in near me, and one just tried to come in when I started the video. So the two-way split, so in terms of energy, so I remember talking about this for the very first time somewhere between the year 2010 and 2011, could have been as late as 2012. I don't think it was as late as 2012. I think it was between 2010 and 2011 on a radio station, an American radio station. So I was talking about this then when I was being asked how I saw the ascension pathway and the ascension timelines playing out for the planet and for people on it. And I tapped in to that reality and timeline and read it as accurately as I could. And at that time I remember saying, well, it's almost like there's a two-way split, two sides of the Grand Canyon really, and some moving into that process, or what I call turning into love, and others turning away from that process and not doing it in this timeline or reality in this time round. And at that time, let's say, I was largely working blindfold because I was looking a long time ahead, and here we are now in 2021, and that is exactly what's happening. So that two-way split, there's another word for that which is called bifurcation, but this two-way split is basically, if we put it down to the nuts and bolts human way of explaining it, it's people deciding whether or not this time round they are within themselves. So these aren't always logical brain decisions. They're often led by the soul and the spirit and the spiritual energy, the consciousness within one. So people this time round deciding on that soul and spiritual level, they want to have their eyes wide open, their perception blown wide open. They want to become more conscious. They want to come into a 0 point unified field of energy within their own heart portal, and they want to eventually get to a position in the stage where they are co-creating and forming their reality. So there are numbers of people on this planet that are on a soul level magnetized in a way to that ascension reality, magnetized all within themselves, all happening internally. And there are others that aren't so drawn to that and do not wish to, not just on a personality level, beyond that, on a soul and spiritual level inside, do not wish to do it this time round. And so Some people won't do it in this reality. There's this two-way split going on, and some people will do it, you know, out of this dimension, or, you know, once they leave the earth plane. And there will be a proportion of humanity that will and are magnetized, and this is going on inside them, their own ascension timeline, magnetized to their own highest consciousness, 0 point unified field reality for them and for the earth. And those people are on track, and the ascension timeline and reality is on track. And this is something I keep repeating, because sometimes the appearances of what's going on in the world at the moment can easily make people very disheartened and think, you know, holy smoke, this isn't very good, and it looks like the bad guys are winning. It's smoke and mirrors, and we are moving through a period of history now where it's like the plaster is half pulled off, and we can't stick the plaster back on and pretend it's not been half pulled off. We have to keep going until the plaster's off, and that is not going to be entirely comfortable for any of us, because it does involve a lot of change. It does involve a lot of internal shifts, and when there are internal shifts, it brings up everything. It brings up the whole prospect of one's an understanding of one's purpose, identity, personality, perception, life choices, reality. It brings up all those repressed things, all those patterns, not just for the personality in you this time round, but for your many multiple coexisting timelines and realities all happening at the same time. You're kind of processing and clearing for the lot, then it goes out to the families you're in, blood and soul family, the linear family, and then up and out to the collective. So there's a lot going on in that perspective. So as human beings, to do this is extremely rare. It's pretty much unheard of to ascend this way round. So when we did it last time, we didn't do it this way round. We didn't do it from the boots up, from the bottom up, from the feet up. We did it from the spirit down, the consciousness down, which means we seeded and were here in the civilizations of Atlantis and Lemuria, which is also an internal state of consciousness, as well as an existing physical reality, an internal state of consciousness. We didn't work our way up to be that evolved. We were that evolved. We came here that evolved, and then got corrupted, contaminated by the same guys that are trying to do it again, and the slate was wiped clean, except for some survivors in the physical sense of those civilizations, particularly the Lemurian one, but also we have it surviving within us, the Atlantean and Lemurian lineage, shall we say. So it hasn't been done this way round before, and that's creating a lot of interest from people on this planet, in this planet, within this planet, and also a lot of interest from those off planet, shall we say, our galactic relatives, sisters and brothers, and also the ones that aren't our sisters and brothers, that aren't particularly nice. So there's a lot of interest. Everybody's interested because it's a really incredible thing that humans are doing at this time, to raise their consciousness, largely from a space of divine amnesia, all the way up to being awake, aware, more conscious, and then eventually getting to a point where they are co-creating their own reality, creating consciously. We're very good at creating unconsciously because we don't realize the tools that we have. So largely people create unconsciously. It's like giving somebody a wand and they think it's a stick, so they're waving it about and all sorts of chaos is going on. So it's an incredible time. Yes, it's an exciting time. It's an incredibly interesting time and also a very challenging time for human beings to be doing this. And yet again, as we go ahead a little bit in the ascension timeline, which is quite easy really. I mean, in a way I was doing that back in 2010 and 2011 when I was predicting the bifurcation and the two-way split, and now we're in that time. So just looking a little way ahead, we know that we not only make it, but we know that we succeed. We know that those malevolent forces and the tricks and the dark magicians behind a lot of the worldwide movements going on, we know that there will be consequences for that. And I'm not talking about in millennia to come, I mean this time round, like instant karma really. And we are going to be able to see this. Now, what I am going to say is, when I went back to what I was saying earlier about the plaster being partially pulled off, this, we are about a third of the way through. So I like talking, as you know, if you've been following my work for years, you know I talk in energy sizes and shapes and percentages. We're about a third of the way through, which means we've got 2/3 to go. Now don't sigh and groan and hold your head in your hands. For spirit and soul, there is no time. I know it seems so important to us as humans because everything seems to take so long. It either happens really quick or it seems to take forever. Everything has come into the now moment. And these are not baloney, esoteric, blah, blah teachings. This is real stuff. And it became in the now moment from January 2020, when the ascension timeline really became physical in this reality, physical inside us in this reality. And the earth, I always call it the earth moved left, but the earth moved into her non-stop, nothing can stop it, ascension reality. With or without us, the earth's doing it. But, you know, we're going along for the ride. We're entwined with it. So the good news is that reality is intact. It's there. It's tangible. It's solid. It's physical, and it's real. And it's also happening inside us, you know, so it's kind of the two things work hand in glove, hand in hand like that. So it's not something that how we perceive time can be done overnight, because it is massive. It is absolutely massive, which means that it's a process of unfoldment going on across the world, and we are at the bit of that unfoldment where it doesn't look very pleasant. It doesn't look very pleasant, and there is this about 2/3 to go. So in terms of time, because everyone wants to know, well, how long is it going to take? How long is it going to take? Well, the way I'm going to call it is the way I'm getting it, just like I got it all those years ago, which means I'm going to say it as I'm reading it now. In our understanding of time as we as humans understand it, even though it's kind of inaccurate, and we're going to be changing our understanding of all that as time goes on, we're in about a third of the way through of a 2 to 3 year period of time. So there's going to be loads of stuff going on, some of it more pleasant than others. Doesn't mean so it's all going to be bad stuff. I'm talking about the question really is, how long is it the more globally malevolent stuff seeming to be intact? And we've got a little way to go yet. We're a third of the way through. So around about the year 2023 ish, 2023 coming into 2024 is when I see huge breaking away of that stuff. Doesn't mean to say nothing's going to happen till then, and we've got to sort of just sit and grin and bear it. It's going to be non-stop stuff and non-stop change, and not all of it awful, but I'm really referencing the more challenging stuff, globally, when is most of that out the way, or we're seeing physical proof of those shifts. People want the physical proof. Everybody's getting very short-tempered and irritable and wanting everything to happen now overnight, and I mean, I totally get it, but it doesn't always work like that. You know, there are things going on that we don't hear just because it's not on the television. They're banning a lot of alternative media, so you don't get to hear half of what's really going on. So just because you're not hearing it on the radio or television doesn't mean to say stuff's not happening. You only have to look at your own lives and how much things are changing so quickly. And yeah, some of those changes aren't too pleasant. If you're being prevented from seeing your loved ones, or prevented from working, or being forced to have something placed in your body that you don't wish, you know, there are lots of things like that swirling around the mix to do with what I'm talking about, and that isn't you know, it's not easy for people. But that is the time we're moving through. You know, with enough people have got to see and realize for themselves what's going on. I mean, and some people won't. That's just a fact. That is just a plain fact. Some people are not going to see it, and some people will. And if you ask me how many people are going to see it, I mean, again, I'm talking statistically and in size and number. Commenting on the country of the United Kingdom where I am at the moment, about a third are on track to totally get it, totally awaken, totally come into the process, magnetized into their own ascension reality, which becomes a physical reality, and be wide awake, aware, and eventually, not yet, eventually ascend within their human body. Do I see that changing much? No. And I've been talking about this now for at least 2 years, and saying over and over again in private client sessions that the UK would be one of the last countries liberated, and would sustain quite heavy collateral damage in terms of the amount of people that were going to really understand what was happening and be in alignment with their own ascension reality. Why? Because there is huge density and not so great historical, let's say, known history, but the unknown history, the non-spoken about history, all connected with this planet that is influencing globally. So some countries in this two-way split, who's going into the ascension process and who isn't, are going to fare much better than others, because countries have more light quotient, they have more people awake and aware, in alignment with their own ascension energy inside them, and the overall picture is rosier and liberation is quicker. At this point in time, 15th of June 2021, I had to look at then because time's going so quick, still 100% on track. That ascension reality for the planet is now unstoppable, far too way along the line to be stopped. America set to be still the first country liberated in its own state of consciousness and awareness. I feel followed closely by Australia. I've been saying that for a while now. Australia will be the second. So interesting stuff. So this two-way split is something to do with the consciousness inside people. Are they turning in to love? Are they turning away from it? Are they becoming more conscious or unconscious, more unconscious? Are they going into the heart? Are they going away from the heart? Are they going into the truth and reality of who they are and their divinity, breaking out of that divine amnesia? Or are they continuing to be asleep, or going completely asleep, or diving into an artificial constructed reality or grid of consciousness, an artificial one, not the real deal? And that has been on the cards, shall we say, for a very long time. But this is obviously the game that's now playing out. And there will be, you know, people that make decisions accordingly. Where there is, so there's this two-way split going on in people, and of course these two-way splits affect every decision they make in their life, really, because everything else that comes next depends on what side of the fence they're on. You've also got it playing out in loads of like micro ways. So you've got the macro and micro. So you've got loads of micro ways it's playing out, like who is deciding to go down the route of experimental things that go in the arm, and who is not. And then you can break it down, that it's all being broken down into who is leaning this way, who is leaning that way. Now that's, in a way, I'm going to say that's part of the process, but there's also a malevolent encouragements out there to try and break people up and disjoint people, because people, when they all stand as one, are unstoppable. That's so phenomenally powerful. If you can break people up into black against white, one nation against another nation, men against women, one sex, you know, like I say, sexuality against another sexuality, one age against another age, one person who's choosing to do something to do with this and in the arm, and one who isn't. So, you know, just keep breaking them up, breaking them up, breaking them up. It's like you have a field of sheep and then you've got them all in different pens. And then, of course, the power and oneness isn't so obvious or great, but if you've got them all together, unstoppable. So there is a deliberate malevolent agenda to divide and conquer and divide and separate, which has been there since time began, but it's very obvious at the moment. And so that's also a two-way split. And you're seeing it with family, you're seeing it with friends. Really, this is the time, really, this is going to show who has got that strength of character. And I don't say that with judgment. I say that with honesty, so that within people, within themselves, it's have they got that strength of character to follow their hearts, follow their knowing, follow their instinct and intuition, or are they feeling it's too much pressure and going to cave in under the pressure, the public pressure, the neighbor pressure, friends pressure, family pressure to do a certain thing, even if it's against their principle, or act a certain way. And it really is going to come down to how much confidence, knowing, and courage one has in oneself at this time. It is a time of courage, is how much somebody is going to stand in their truth and how much it really means to them, not out of stubbornness or to do with their personality, but how much it really means to them, how much they really get it and understand it, and how important this point of history is. Because the decisions we make now, I mean, they are major, because they are going to affect whether we do continue the ascension timeline. Personally, the ascension timeline, nothing's going to stop it. But the individuals magnetized to it, they can still drop away from it, go so far and go no further, and then not do it this time round, and perhaps do it another time, or do it out of body elsewhere in another reality. But so it is going to affect if you do it if you're wanting to do it in this earth reality. The decisions you make now are going to absolutely affect that. There's no question about it. And so it is quite a big deal, really. And how do you know you're following the right thing? Because how do you know you're following your heart? It's so hard to explain. You just know. You just know. If there are things that you are wavering about, decisions you're wavering about, and there are some main ones that people are having to decide on at the moment, mostly to do with what goes in the arm again. What I would say, see, I just realised what I said there, what goes in the arm again. Arm again, Armageddon, arm again, arm again. That's a Freudian slip, and that's very accurate. If you're wavering on something, what I would say is do research as much. You will never get your answers through a mainstream outlet. If the mainstream outlets are state controlled, you're never going to get a broad picture. So there's no harm in doing research, and all the answers there, even if your heart is not clear on this, your head is not clear on this, and you want more clarification, do some work. There's nothing more frustrating than people who are wavering but do nothing to look into it themselves and research it, because it's all there. It can be found. If you can't find it in the mainstream routes because they're stopping people sharing the truth because it's accurate, there are many other channels there other than, you know, the main ones such as YouTube that you can find this on. In the United Kingdom, for example, there's UK Column News. These guys are fantastic. They don't hypothesize about anything. It's all using the own official facts and figures, which are a horror story in themselves of what's really going on. And that's just in one country, but there are loads of outlets out there that you can sit down and look at and then make these decisions, rather than being railroaded into it just because you're being told that it's a certain way. It really is a time for humanity to grow up, and I don't mean that in a cruel way. It is a time for people to take responsibility for their own lives, their own decisions, and that's part of standing in your mastery and your sovereignty as a sovereign being, born as a sovereign being, and actually making informed decisions from there. And then if then when you make a decision, okay, I really did go over this with a fine-tooth comb. I didn't just because everyone said I should, or everyone bullied me into it, or I was just following the carrot being dangled a long way off, and as soon as I got to the carrot, then it was moved again, which is happening all the time. That they actually researched it and then made the decision. And I don't feel that's ever more important than at this time, really. It gets to a point, which I'm certainly at now, all I can do is put out these little pointers and signposts, and it's up to people. They're either going to resonate with that, or they're not, or they're not going to get it this time round, or they are going to go and do that research and make their decision from there. And that kind of applies to everyone. That's where I was really grateful, really, for my background, in that even before I worked in the spiritual field, I have to be honest, I was just born like it. I was always questioning. I was questioning before I was 5 years old about everything, and always wanted to know what was out there, and always wanting to know more, and never just accepting if I was told it was one way that it was that way. And even my own parents used to plead with me because I used to get bullied terrible at school, particularly at primary school. That's you go there between the age of 4 and 11, because I went my own way and did my own thing. So if I wanted to wear a coat, I can think of one coat. It's making me laugh because they used to call me Father Christmas because it was a bright red coat. It was quite leery, really. And I'm going back a long time now, when I was 5. And I remember my mum pleading with me, please don't wear it for school. They're gonna basically kick the shit out of you. And these really, frumpy, like they used to nickname them like nursey shoes. I mean, how can it be fashionable when you're 5, for God's sake? But anyway, I liked it because I was comfortable and I liked the bright red coat. And I got the shit kicked out of me. I'm not going to say that didn't bother me. It did a bit. But I still never changed what I wanted to wear because I liked what I was wearing. So it didn't make me fit in, but I was just born like that. I just was born like it. And the earliest memories I can remember of being like that is before the age of 5. I started school when I was 4. So you're kind of, even if you weren't born that way, it's easier if you were born that way because it's kind of in your nature. But anyone and everyone, despite what their path was before this point in history, because it is the most pivotal point in history since Atlantis and Lemuria, everybody has the opportunity to sort of actually pull themselves up short, pull up the braces, stand still for a minute and say, okay, let me take stock of where I am, what's happening, where do I want to go from here? And like I say, some people will begin that process, that questioning process, for the very first time now, and others won't. They won't. And it is difficult because it causes that two-way split again, because I wouldn't personally myself, I can only talk about from myself, my perspective here, I don't feel I would fall out with or not speak to anyone that I know that chose a different choice, no matter how much I feel that choice is the wrong choice for them and humanity at this point in time, over particular Armageddons, armor ones. I wouldn't fall out with them over that, because I can't say I wouldn't be disappointed if there was somebody I knew and cared about, or I knew and loved. I can't say I wouldn't be really disappointed about that, because I know not just how I feel on it, I just know on it. But it wouldn't make me not love them or care about them as a person. And there is this encouragement very strongly to turn against the people you love, and because of things like that, I mean, that's part of the plan, so that you're left with a group of people that don't want to be forced to have something placed in their body, that they know what it is. And it being the rest of the sheep, I'm calling us all sheep here just for an example, so don't get offended, saying, well, it's your fault that they won't let us out the pen. It's all part of the plan. I mean, if you just go and look at the official stuff, which is tons of, you would see that, and then you can make your choices accordingly. So it's a phenomenal point of time. We're about a third of the way through, a third of the way, not through the whole entire global changes. It will be non-stop change till 2020, 30, 2031, 2032. I'm talking about the really yucky stuff, not nice stuff, all getting sick of it and fed up with it, and the psychological games and everything else stuff. And it's seeming like it's more malevolent than ever, although it isn't, because that malevolent energy has dropped in its power significantly since 2020, and that's a definite. But how it appears on the surface and what is rolling out across the globe, there's still going to be inconveniences and consequences and some pain and suffering for some people about that, which there has been for all of us and still is for a while yet, because the plaster isn't all off yet. It's only a third of the way off, but it is coming off. Nothing will stop it come off, and the whole ascension path is 100% intact. There are amazing things happening now. I've just seen that in the work that I do, and the way many of us work is changing, and much of what I do, I'm able to access, let's say, different things to what I accessed before. I just have to point a camera at the sky, just even outside where I'm living, and all sorts of things are coming out on camera. When I'm working with people, I'm often assisting with the galactic lineage or the galactic heritage within their so-called junk DNA, which was never junk. There's often the galactic codings of you as a star being from there, and often working on, sometimes we work in an interdimensional or another dimensional space, which is almost like a plasma-based space, really, where instead of being on a solid spacecraft or spaceship, so we sort of move through these through like a it's kind of like a portal. It's kind of like a wormhole, really. When we enter into this space, it's very largely transparent. The ship is transparent. I know that we're on something that we would perceive as solid, but it's actually it's not solid. It's solid from our understanding, but it's not really solid. So it's all transparent, and it's like plasma. It's like a plasma based thing, with different civilizations, different races. Again, there's extraordinary things. I mean, things are changing, I think, for all of us every single week. And you know, I could bring another 2 or 3 videos out, which I might do actually. I might talk in length about that side of it, and also at length about the instant consequences that are happening now. I'm not really talking so much about karma. It's not that I don't entirely resonate with karma. I'm not saying I don't believe in karma. I'm not entirely resonating in the teachings of the way it's been explained and understood by people. What I can say, I'm going to call it instant consequences. There seem to be instant consequences of things. I mean, I've seen that very readily with clients and people I know, and also in things that affect my own life, and really big dramatic ones as well that bring a resolution or a closure to something, much more so than before. If you ask why it's instant now, it's because we're in a time where it all has become now. Everything merged and became now, in the now, as from January 2020. So that's an extraordinary thing. So there are instant changes of things that maybe hadn't changed for a very long time, or years, or have been going on months and months, you know, moving quite quickly. Again, it's not always on our own state of consciousness. There are different things that affect this. It's too simplistic. The teachings there are a little bit simplistic, you know, sort of saying to people, well, it's your own mental state that because things, the references and examples I'm thinking of here are a completely different family to me, not connected to me in lineage or soul family or any of those things, and yet, you know, I'm thinking of that as an example of a very negative in this lifetime person in their behavior and reality, there was sudden consequences at quite a young age, oh sorry, not the camera, in life, and came to an untimely, violent end, just like that. I mean, and that's an example, something just incredible. Things are moving. When we're going through them as human beings, we're so impatient. I mean, I laugh because I'm the world's worst at that. I'm very impatient, and I've had to learn over a lifetime, especially in the last 10 years. I still find it frustrating, but I'm more patient than I've ever been now because I sort of had to learn it. But as human beings, we are very impatient, and we do everything. We want to see the results of it instantly, and it doesn't always work that way. But it's like a paradox, really. It's like we can feel like there are things moving slowly, or some aspects of our life that just have flatlined, moving so slowly that they're flatlined, and yet the speed at which everything's going now, I've never seen anything like it. The speed of how everything is changing and fluctuating, and yet when you go into the middle of that speed, it is completely still. I call it being in the eye of the storm. When you go, there is all that speed around you, and yet when you're in the middle of that, in the center of that, it's actually very still, and it's all in the now. It's all in the now moment. And I'm not just spurting esoteric teachings here, I'm talking about it experientially. This is how I feel it and perceive it, and I'm sure this is how many of you feel and perceive it. You know there's a load of things going on, like a whirlwind around you, and yet it seems very quiet. And if there isn't, and it doesn't seem like there's much going on within yourself because it's still and quiet, because it's all happening in the now, and it is that inner stillness and in that inner oneness. That's why it's almost like it is like a bit of a paradox, really. So I'm just trying to feel into if there's anything else I wanted to say. So the two-way split, was always on the cards. I mean, I'm sure other people did as well, but I distinctly spoke about it on an American radio show in either 2010 or 2011. And here we are all this time later, it's happened. And there is going to be encouragement to divide and conquer. There's a bit of a plan to divide and conquer people. It's already been rolled out. It's not just about to be rolled out. We've been living with it for a few years now. Watch for that. Don't buy into it. Follow your heart. It really is a time to take heart and take courage and not fall down into the fear and despair, because we know the final result. But that doesn't mean to say people can lay back and do nothing. It means being true to yourself, whatever that means and how that translates. And also at this point in time, I'm just thinking I made a couple of, also being aware that there are lots of other changes. I mean, there's loads of other changes in aspects of people's own consciousness coming online inside themselves. This galactic consciousness really started coming through strongly about 18 months ago. That's what inspired the soundings and the album that I did with my son, whose birthday is today. I've got two sons, but the one I did the album with, because there are soundings on there to help clear aspects of consciousness and activate aspects of consciousness, and that was very much guided by the Lyran or the Lyran extraterrestrial galactic consciousness, that album. What I've found lately is when I've been bringing out anything to do with soundings, so this video now, it may sound like I'm generally just talking, but I'm not generally talking. That's why I keep looking away. I'm looking up here, looking up there. It is me talking, but I'm also tapping in, not just to my higher self, but often outside of that as well. Because I've been doing this for so long now, it's very natural for me to do that. It's not an effort, if you know what I mean, because I've done it for so long now. And also worked in trance and trance mediumship and things like that for such a long time now, nearly 22 years, that it's quite natural. So I don't have to go really woo-woo to do that. And my talking like this puts out a frequency or vibration or a sound which some people will find comforting and empowering, and they will resonate with, and some will be not liking it at all and will be horrendously triggered by it and not like what it brings up for them. There's nothing I can do about that. I mean, I'm just being me. So this in itself is a kind of like a transmission, if you like, but I don't dress it up all flowery and be ringing bells and incense and everything. I'm just being me and normal. That being me and normal, it's funny. Again, that's a double-edged sword. People will either love that because I'm very human with this stuff, or people hate it and they want the woo-woo. I mean, I can be as woo-woo as you like. The things I've seen over my lifetime, working as a medium, clairvoyant, psychic healer, coming from a line of exorcists, healers, mediums, seen loads, experienced loads, done a bit of time travel, done all sorts, but because I'm down to earth, on the earth, and balanced. I wasn't balanced when I originally did it all those years ago. Everybody goes off balance when they first start to awaken. Because I'm balanced with it and quite normal, let's say, with it. People either love that or they hate it. And again, I'm not responsible for that, you know, so I can't be responsible for what people do or do like, or what they think or what they don't think. So it's like I say, it's an interesting time to be alive, and it's watch this space for people really, because there are things changing for us all every week in the physical and in our physical lives. What we understand and don't understand, what we will accept as sovereign free beings and what we won't. Also, things changing in our awareness and perception as more of who you are comes online to you. You're more connected to your higher self, you're more in your heart, your perception and reality changes. You can access different, let's say, codes that are available to you. You can access more of your junk DNA. It brings me back to what I was saying. The album that we did was Lyran, Galactic, inspired. I found that how I'm working at the moment, that might change, is that when I'm doing anything along soundings, like an album, like sounding on a video, and usually I will say, right, this is the talking bit of the video, this bit is going to be the sounding bit. If I'm guided to do that, I've noticed that it always, the last two, the quantum recording ones, have been connected either with earth, tribal people, or elemental energies. So the ocean energies was the last one, not just dolphins and whales in their higher crystalline form, let alone their physical form now, but like selkies and water beings, other water beings. So that was inspired by that, and the soundings and the whole vibration. And then the one I did before, a few months back, the quantum recordings, was inspired by, I think it was a tribe called Zuni. And I mean, I didn't even know that word. I just knew, I think it's Zuni. I was making some strange sounds, and then I had to actually Google it afterwards. That's when I know it's not coming from me, but it's coming via my higher self, I guess, from me, or tapping into that larger state of consciousness, to the guide team, from higher dimensions, if you like. If I don't even know myself what that word means or where that came from, then I know that. So again, I always work with as much honesty and integrity as possible. And if it feels right, and if it goes through my filter of what I call Christ consciousness, Christed consciousness, try and bring it through that filter, and it feels right to bring it through, I bring it through. And that's how I work. You know, I don't like double check and treble check before I kind of bring it through like that, when it's something like it's in a more channeled format, that kind of channeled format. So I'm gonna love you and leave you here, because this is the longest video I've done for some time, and I wasn't planning to be up here today, but there you go. So I hope you came through the solar eclipse okay, and the lunar one, and like I say, that will just be more activations, more codes coming through there. We're getting quite blasé about them now, aren't we? Because it's been non-stop for a number of years now. It's not a new thing to us now, is it? These codes, these activations, they just keep on coming, keep on coming. But of course, they're massively helpful. They're massively helpful because they are moving that consciousness up. They are moving you up the rungs of consciousness, of your own ladder of consciousness in your heart. They are helping pull the plaster off that little bit quicker. So they are vitally important, but we've got so used to this now, and so used to the crazy Schumann resonance of the planet, the heartbeat of the planet going off the charts and all sorts, that we're almost like normalizing it. I mean, that's an amazing thing about human beings. We do normalize things, some of the most extraordinary things sometimes. I guess that ties in with our survival patterns, really. We're resistant at first to adapting, but then we are very good at adapting to the most extraordinary situations. And I mean, at the moment, we have the most extraordinary situations. Not for too much longer. And like I say, there's a lot happening under the surface. There's a lot of information out there. Some of that information I definitely resonate with, some of it I don't resonate with at all, and some of it I think, not sure. I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit and watch how this plays out. So I'd suggest you do the same. You know, there's going to be some stuff you resonate with, some you don't, some you think, I'm not sure about that, because there's a lot of bits of the puzzle coming from a lot of people. And also, like anything, you know, the lightworker industry has also been infiltrated, just like everything has, you know, everything has been infiltrated. So it's always a case of just going with following your heart again, going with what resonates. Sometimes you have to put something down or come away from it and pick it up. There's some people I really like their work and have consistently liked their work, and they haven't really deviated from that, and I'm still in alignment with what they're saying and I'm resonating with. And others are just like, no, it's not really doing it for me, or I'm not really resonate with that, or I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. And you know, that's just as a mixed bag. I mean, it's the sort of thing you're going to be doing as well if you're not already doing it, you know. And as we grow and change, of course, what we needed at that time and what we align with at that time is going to be different. It's going to keep changing. So that's, again, a good sign. One last thing I'll say before I sign off here. If you keep wondering why I'm always fiddling with my face like that, when you're doing a certain form of channeling, especially if you're medium, when you are channeling in a particular way, it's a little bit like you've got tickly cobwebs on your face. Anyone that works as a medium that channels that way will tell you that. So over the years, you will notice that's something I do in most of the time I'm working, is that I'll be going like this, and I'll be going like that, and I'll be going like that. And it's not because I'm an itchy person. It only happens when I'm on here. It's when I'm doing this kind of channeling. It's a bit like tickly little wisps of cobwebs will be on your face. Some people will say when I'm working, and I've noticed it a couple of times on video as well, when I'm working like this, they will look at me and then do a double take and think, God, her face looks a little bit different. And again, you know, when I'm channeling and I have my guides in close, or when my frequency is going up, my consciousness is going up, you will see some changes sometimes. Some people are not able to see that and they'll never see that. Others can see it quite easily, and it don't freak me out. I mean, that's been happening for a number of years. That's just when your consciousness changes, or one of my guides is in close, it all changes. You know, not drastically changes. You can see it's me. But you know, some things change then, and like I say, I'll be keeping constantly going like this, which I've been doing all the way through this video. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. Hope it wasn't too waffly. I can't believe I've been talking for nearly 54 minutes. Longest video I've done for a long time, perhaps even ever. I don't know if I've done one that long before. So that's monumental in itself. I will love you and leave you. I will be back up here soon. Again, part of me being in integrity with who I am is I won't come up for the sake of it. So if I really want to chat to you guys about something and I think you're going to get some benefit from it, I find it helpful or useful, I'll come up here. I won't do it for the sake of it, you know, and if it doesn't feel right, or I don't feel right about doing it. So that's just who I am. That's just how I roll. So I've got a couple of videos in mind, but like I say, I will know the time and the date to do them, because I'll just get up that day and just go, oh yes, I've got to get up here and do this. So I'm going to love you and leave you. I do hope you're doing okay. I know wherever you are in the world, some countries are rolling through this easier than others in terms of physical changes and in terms of consciousness changes, and others it's a little bit more what I call sticky. The plaster's a third of the way off. Nothing's going to stop the plaster coming off. So just bear with it. Do what you have to do to keep yourself reasonably balanced, as healthy as you can be, and as sane as you can be, as happy as you can be during this time of phenomenal change and transformation. I mean, those things are going to be similar for a lot of you because similar things that make us happy, similar things that we have to do, but just basic things every single day. Be really kind to yourself. It's really easy to get short-tempered with yourself and mad at yourself with everything that's going on. Really be kind to yourself at this time. It's really important. And until we meet again, which probably won't be too long, I will love you and leave you. Take care. I hope you got some value from that, and I'll see you guys soon.